We just have a technical thing going on here, so we'll start shortly.
Yes.
All right, we are ready to go. It is Tuesday, December 5th, 2023. It is 6:33 p.m., and you are at a common council meeting of the City of Wausau, a special one. Thank you for joining us. The first item on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, the next item is roll call. The clerk, Caitlin, welcome back. She'll make the call.
Should be able to mark that you're present. Thank you, thank you. We have 9 voting members present.
All right, thank you very much. Next up is public comment, pre-registered citizens for matters appearing on the agenda and other public comment. I don't think we had anyone register, so we will move on from there. First of all, I need a motion to suspend the rules, 6B, filing, and 12A, referral of resolutions. This does require a 2/3 vote. I have a motion by Alder Rasmussen and a second by Alder Herbst. You don't get to debate this, but I think we can vote.
You may begin voting. Motion passes 9-0.
All right, thank you, everyone. Rules are suspended, and we are on to file number 231204. This is a resolution approving proposed class action settlement in PFAS aqueous film forming products liability litigation and multi-district litigation related to 3M and DuPont public water systems settlements. And I'm going to toss this over to our attorneys, all of them, I guess. I don't know who wants to start.
Well,
Start with-
Paul, would you like to say hello?
Hi, good evening, Commissioners, good evening. I know Dan is in the room.
Yep.
And I don't know if
I
he
am.
wants to start.
And Dan Varleen is in the room as well, Paul and Steve.
Oh,
So
Okay.
go ahead and
Great.
introduce
So,
yourselves.
And we have submitted a PowerPoint there, or a couple of slides on the slide deck. Are you able to show that cover page?
Yes.
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 Okay, so you can go to the next page. What is the United States EPA doing about PFAS? So this evening, we're talking about a class action settlement involving 3M Corporation. That's the only topic for this presentation here. And this first slide here, what is the United States EPA doing about PFAS? I just want to remind the aldermen and women about, and our mayor, about what the United States is doing and what they are moving towards is for the first time, regulated PFAS in our drinking water. This slide shows the enforceable level that the United States is looking to impose for our per trillion for PFOS and 4 parts per trillion for PFOA. I'll note for the council that the goal of the United States is actually on the left side there, 0. And so the United States is trying to eliminate PFAS in our drinking water. We go to the next slide. Who's responsible for this? We have been engaged by the city to litigate on your behalf, and we have litigated and are litigating against 3M, and you can see all of the PFAS manufacturers, about 10 or so of them on that left side of that chart. The 3M company is there, Chemours and DuPont, Solvay, Dynex, Dakin. There are several PFAS manufacturers, and on the right side of that slide, we're showing the council the aqueous film forming foam manufacturers. And I'll call to your attention the largest manufacturer being 3M. You can see others on there, ChemGuard, Kitty, and of course, Tyco. We are, of course, also investigating and looking into other local potential responsible parties. We go to the next slide. This slide here shows you Kitty has actually filed for bankruptcy. So on that list in the prior screen with all these manufacturers of PFAS and aqueous film forming foam manufacturers, there is, of course, bankruptcy possibility with all the litigation that's being filed against them. We are calling to the council's attention. One company did file for bankruptcy, Kitty Fenwell, and so I'm calling that to your attention here. Of course, when bankruptcy happens, always a possibility, nobody gets any money and nobody gets paid. The next slide. The next slide here shows there are many claims involving PFAS involving the city of Wausau. For local governments, for Wausau, there's public water system, there's real property, other potable water, wastewater, stormwater, and airports. Tonight's presentation focuses on just one of those claims, and that is drinking water. The next slide. These are the dates for 3M. We were notified in September. The city was notified of a settlement. This is the chart that the court has established with the attorneys, us being one of the attorneys that was involved in all of these orders that have been given by the court. This sets forth the schedule for the court to actually approve a final settlement. The court has notified 20,000 water systems across the United States of this settlement. The city has until December 11th to opt out of this settlement, and that is the reason why we are meeting tonight. Next slide. Putting the settlement into context, I just want to call to attention the issue of bankruptcy account and the valuation of this settlement with 3M equating to nearly 1/4 of 3M's total valuation. Collectively, the two settlements between DuPont and 3M would be the largest source of PFAS funding made available to public water suppliers in the history of the United States. The releases of water claims would only be releases for public water systems for treatment and remediation costs. It does not release claims against 3M for anything other than water treatment and remediation costs. So issues tied to a landfill or a wastewater treatment would be preserved. The next settlement, or the next page, couple of pages, talks about how the settlement calculates funding for the individual water systems. There's 2 slides. One slide here talks about calculating a PFAS score, and what the court will do and the claims administrator will do and we will do on your behalf, working with your Public Works Department and your city attorney and Dan, Marlene, is calculate a PFAS score. So looking to see the highest level of PFOA and the highest level of PFOS, and then the next slide talks about the allocation of the flow rate. So what the settlement incorporates is Wausau's PFAS contamination, how concentrated was that in each individual well? So for the 5 wells, go through, determine the flow rate, and we go through and determine the level of PFAS concentration, and that gives us a PFAS score. The next slide should say why participate in these settlements. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. There's 20,000 water systems. How do we go after a potential polluter without forcing that polluter into bankruptcy like Kitty? A class member here at Wausau would be compensated now for its claims related to the contamination of its drinking water system, any claims related for PFAS contamination in landfills, wastewater, fire department, fire training facilities, and airports have not been released. Claims against local potential responsible parties and other defendants such as Tyco are not being released and will continue to be litigated. The compensation of the 3M settlement takes into consideration the size of Wausau system, the amount of the PFAS contamination, treatment costs, and others. This means higher compensation for systems that have higher levels of contamination. The last slide about opting out. A class member, of course, can opt out of any class action settlement. Class members that opt out do not release any of their claims related to PFAS contamination in their public water system, and will then be forced to continue to litigate their case, spend additional resources on litigation, and continue with uncertainties of a complex trial, among many other detrimental factors. The judge has made it perfectly clear throughout this process that the enemy of the good is perfect. That will conclude my presentation to the council. If Paul or Daniel have anything to add, please feel free to do so.
No, thank you, Steve, for going through the details of what's going on with the settlements and some of the things that we're going to have to decide when it comes to opting out. I think in executive session, I'd like to talk in a lot more detail about the choices that this body needs to make.
This is an opt-out settlement. So if Wausau does nothing, they will miss out on a potential funding opportunity in the future. And it's very important to be aware of all these deadlines and timelines that are involved with this class action. So,
Is there anybody else who wants to say anything in open session? Any questions by this body before we? Yeah, Alder Killian.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Could you just clarify or be a little more specific on your definition of quote-unquote landfill when you list things that have not been released?
Paul, would you like to answer that?
You know, it's what we all understand as a landfill. So it would be landfill, wastewater treatment, anything associated with either of those would not be released as part of this resolution. The only thing that will be released will be the drinking water claims. So from when it comes into the pipe to when it leaves the pipe, that treatment system is what will be released.
So if Wausau was required to remediate its landfill per the DNR or a state regulation, that would be the type of claim that's preserved.
Thank you. And if that wasn't a historical municipal landfill and that was a landfill of 3M itself, like a historical large dump, that would also be left out of this?
Correct.
Good point.
Thank you.
Okay. Any
I
further?
thought I remembered hearing something about a 3M landfill before.
Yeah, we definitely
Thank you
talked
for
about it.
mentioning that.
Any other questions in open session? Or if there's somebody who would like to make the motion that we go into close, I'd ask you to read all the things. Looks like Alder Martins is ready to make that motion.
Okay. I'll make a motion that we go into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statutes 19.85 sub 1 paragraph G, conferring with legal counsel for the governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is or is likely to become involved regarding rights associated with class membership and as a litigating entity in the PFAS class action settlement proposed in the aqueous film forming products liability litigation in multi-district litigation.
It looks like we have a second from Alder Herbst. Is there any discussion here? I'm not seeing any.
You may begin, oh, we'll do a roll call vote for this one. Lukens,
Aye.
Martin,
Aye.
Killian,
Aye.
Denny.
Aye.
Gisselman,
Aye.
McElhaney. Rasmussen.
Aye.
Watson.
Aye.
Herbst. Motion passes 9-0.
All right, thank you. We will be back after this.